So we've looked at the graphics debugger, meaning the one that's built in here to Visual Studio, this one. But I mentioned there's others. Let's take a look at RenderDoc. RenderDoc. This is available to download. It's free download. This is sort of the one that started them all. This is the one that was launched and made public before anybody else's was, and everything else is sort of based on this one. But it's still out there, still going strong. A lot of people still use this. So how would we use it? Let's see. We're going to go to Launch Application, and we're going to tell it, since it's not built right into Visual Studio, we have to tell it what to launch. So I'm going to show the Lighting Lab again. So I'm going to browse to where my executable is. And I need to tell it the working folder. It's going to assume the working folder is the same as where the exe is, but that's not what we do, right? We have our working folder up here so that we can get to the assets folder. So I'll say that, and then I will launch the program. And here we have the program running with this little header that's been added by RenderDoc, similar to what happens in the Visual Studio one. And just like the Visual Studio one, I can capture a frame. So let's do that. Just like it. And here's my frame capture. Let's double click. And here's my event list. This is all looking extremely similar. What do we got here? The frame number that we were on, the capture was started, something called color pass number 1, which there's our events. A clear render target view, clear depth stencil view, draw indexed 3 indices, and draw indexed 36 indices. Now in the one in Visual Studio, you could go through click by click and see the frame being built. And we're not seeing that here, but hey, guess what? It's over here. The texture viewer does show us that. Here's our clear render target view, clearing the depth stencil view, draw indexed, boom, boom, boom. There's our triangle, and there's our cube. Just the same as the built-in one works. It's very similar. You can use that too. You can pixel around. You can see that I'm hovering down here. You can see the pixel I'm hovering over, and the color of it is shown right there. Let's click a pixel. Let's click this nice fuchsia tongue right here. Fuchsia tongue pixel. Clicky. Oh, hey, clicky. No. All right, there we go. It looks like I had to right click. I forgot that. Left click didn't let me hit it. It was the right click that I zoomed in, and I can get the pixel history. Here's the history of that pixel, showing what it was at the beginning of the frame, and then when I cleared the frame, it went to blue. When I drew the triangle, what color it landed on, and then what I did with the cube, and we can even debug the pixel right there, same as we were doing in Visual Studio. There's a debugger here too, and we can step through all of that code. Just a different GUI, basically, than what we had in Visual Studio. What else? Let's break our events down and see the various parts. Very similar to what we saw in Visual Studio. We can look at the shader. Shader was set with this command, pixel shader. Here's our input layout. Constant buffers are being set up. Want to look at the constant buffers. Can we look at the constant buffers? Buffer 65. Can we look at buffer 65? Here's the command that was used to create the buffer. Buffer 65. I want buffer 65. I don't see it. Oh, view contents. There it is. Of course. Oh, righty. This looks like, hey, what are these numbers? We remember these numbers, right? 3F8. What is that? That's definitely floats being shown as integers. Somewhere there's got to be a way to change the format. Looks like type in a format declaration. Okay. So it looks like we're going to have to say, I don't know, what if I just say float and say apply? Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's easy enough. I forgot about that. So there you go. That's the data being shown as floats. That's pretty straightforward. What else you want to see? I don't know. I think that's about it for your frame debugger. You can do that. Use it very similar to the one we have. And the beauty is you don't have to have Visual Studio for that. You can do it to anything, and you can apply it to anything that you're running. Okay? You can just if this thing supports, what does it support? Let's see if it. This is a free download. You just go and get it. Quick start, capturing a frame, features. There we go. It supports Vulkan, DirectX 11, DirectX 12, OpenGL, OpenGL ES on Windows. All right. On also Linux, Android, Stadia, and even Nintendo Switch. Imagine that. Okay. That's pretty cool. So that's RenderDoc. Go download RenderDoc and you can use that. You can use that on our projects, and you can use that on commercial projects too. Okay, that one's RenderDoc. So NVIDIA has made their own version of this graphics debugger thing, and that's called Nsight. So you can download that too. Nsight. Okay, let's do the same trick in Nsight. I'll create a new project. Let's create a new project. I don't know, I'll call it like, I don't know. Is that going to be fine? I'm going to use the same folder that I had. See if it's cool with that. Okay. We have to do the same thing. We have to browse to the executable. Here we go. And tell it the folder we want. All right. And we will need to launch the frame debugger. I've noticed that Nsight has a problem loading our textures. I don't know why that is. I'll have to debug that at some point. I'm going to ignore this. I told you never to ignore this, but that means we did not get our textures. We didn't get our textures when we loaded, and so we just got a black box for the cube. Definitely, if you wanted to use this, you need to debug that and figure out why it was unable to load that texture. Anyway, moving forward, we do the same thing here that we do with anything else. We find the capture button, capture it. Yeah, let's do it. There you go. And we've captured a frame. And then we have the full frame description down here of every command that we sent during the frame. Let's see here. There's all the frame being done. And here we are drawing something. And this one draws a nice wireframe for us, so we can see exactly what's being drawn with that command. That's the triangle being drawn there. That's how that one works. And just like the others, you can explore this and see what you can do with them. Another thing that I guess I would point out here is that these are geared towards, Nsight I think in particular is geared very much towards looking at performance. So looking at the speed of something, how long does that command take on the CPU, how long does that take on the GPU? The idea being that if you have a much more complicated scene, you can dig into the timing of it and see why is this particular render taking so long. So that's mostly what that one's about, but it's also got essentially the same features that we saw in the others. That's Nsight. And there's other tools like this. I would say that the console platforms each has their own version of this that works specifically for that console. So the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, they have them. The Xbox Series, they have their own version of this. And they're all, essentially the same thing. So it's absolutely worthwhile to learn this. If you learn just using the Visual Studio one, learn that, you've got a huge leg up over your competition that I think probably has never seen anything like this before. So yeah, do get used to it, practice it. It's a fantastic skill that can really launch you forward in a career if you're going to go into rendering at all. All right, So that's it for graphics debuggers. I'll see you next time.